In today's video, we're taking a look at some trade talk around the NHL. The Calgary Flames have another veteran forward who made it clear he's not re-signing. So what does that mean for the future there and trades we might see? Plus, we have an update on Karlsson and the Penguins. When is that likely going to happen? What's the holdup? We'll talk about what we know so far. Plus, the Carolina Hurricanes, even though they're still in the mix on Erik Karlsson, they also have several other things they're considering doing for signings or trades. We'll take a look at what they're up to, as well as the New York Islanders. What changes could we see from Lou Lamoriello before the season starts? Plus, we have another big update on Alex Galchenyuk as he's entering the player assistance program and has issued an apology. We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL trade rumors and some news to take a look at tonight. First up, I've got another update on Alex Galchenyuk. The last time we discussed his file here, essentially he had his contract terminated from the Arizona Coyotes. Was certainly had some issues with police due to a situation that occurred in the state of Arizona, and we knew that things were not looking good for him. At this point, the NHLPA is still considering, they haven't decided yet if they're going to grieve the contract termination or not, but we do have some other updates today indicating that he's entering the NHL and NHLPA player assistance program. So based on what had happened, I think it was pretty evident, pretty clear that Alex Galchenyuk definitely needs help. So it's good to see that he's going to be getting that help, and hopefully things work out for him and he can hopefully make some improvements in his life and get past any issues he was having. But he's also issued multiple apologies. I'll show you the written letters here on the screen. He has one that he wrote to Scottsdale Police Department. So obviously, outlining that, he acted very inappropriately, and certainly acknowledges that he has a lot of respect for what they do, things like that, and that, he was under the influence of alcohol, and he's certainly, embarrassed by his actions and certainly looking to try to make amends. He also issued a letter of apology directly to Coyotes leadership, teammates of the Coyotes and the fan base as well, outlining that he's, very sorry that he's let them down, and certainly, trying to get the necessary assistance to be able to move forward, and obviously, very apologetic in what had happened. He did admit in these letters that he was under the influence of alcohol, which was rumored to be an issue that he had been dealing with before. So certainly, like I said, regardless of what happened, you hate to see anybody not realize that they need help. So at least that's happened, and he's going to be getting the assistance. I wasn't sure if he'd be able to be eligible for the player assistance program or not, or how that was going to work, because technically he doesn't have a contract anymore, so he's not an active member of the union in the PA, so I didn't know if that would, have any kind of, role or not. And I know they do have some things available for alumni too, so I wasn't sure exactly what would be available, but nice to see that no issues there getting him the help he needs. So hopefully he can move forward, clean up any issues he's having outside the ice. I don't know what this means for his career on the ice. It's difficult to say moving forward. We also have news out of Toronto. They've hired Derek Clancy, who's formerly of the Vancouver Canucks and formerly before that of the Calgary Flames and Pittsburgh Penguins, but most recently worked in Vancouver as an AGM. In Toronto, his role of AGM will be directly responsible in overseeing the Department of Player Personnel. In Vancouver, he worked basically overseeing the scouting department, both pro and amateur scouting. He was pretty good friends, of my understanding, with Jim Rutherford, which is why he went there, although he did have a previous long friendship as well with Brad Treliving, which also obviously is the connection here to Toronto. Before the last season in Vancouver, he worked the year before that with the Calgary Flames, similar type of role. And before that, he was in the Penguins organization for 14 years in a variety of capacities, including in player personnel as well. Like I said, the relationship with Clancy and Treliving goes back further than just a year they spent together in the Flames organization. They've known each other long before that, back in their playing days. They both actually spent a number of seasons playing together in the East Coast Hockey League. So certainly, a long-standing friendship there. Apparently, there was whispers of this in the Vancouver area ever since Treliving got hired as the new GM in the Leafs organization. So again, he's friends with Rutherford, also friends with Treliving. Certainly, I know Vancouver found it a little bit. Vancouver media kind of found it a little odd in a way that he was leaving Vancouver so quickly. Sounds like as well in Vancouver that they don't intend to replace him. They do have a fairly big staff already, and they have several other AGMs, so they're not going to actively look to replace him. They'll just spread around his responsibilities to the remaining members of the management team. The Islanders also announced another signing here today as well. They've signed young goaltender Jakob Skarek. He gets a two-year contract at $775,000 at the NHL level. Each year it's progressively more in the American Hockey League. He is one of the few goalie prospects in their system that does show some promise and potential to be a future NHL goalie. Difficult to say when that's going to be. They obviously have Elias Sorokin, the mainstay in the net, who's one of the best goalies in the league, under contract now for a long-term, after signing a mega extension there this offseason. Plus, he still had 1 year left on his deal. Varlamov was there for another, 4 years on a contract. If he remains with the team and plays out the entire contract, which is quite possible as well, even if he doesn't, he's looking at least 2-3 years before he's going to have an opportunity there. So either way, he's a decent minor league goalie for them, and hopefully can continue developing. Now onto the trade section of the video. We might as well stick with the Islanders here since we're talking about an Islanders signing. A variety of things we want to take a look at here, but there's an article from the New York Post making some suggestions on what the Islanders might be up to. A couple of things here. One, it references the idea that they need a scoring forward, which is what we've talked about here a few times. We know they were involved in the DeBrincat sweepstakes. Unfortunately did not land the player. Clearly he wanted to go to Detroit, which was home for him. And like I said before, I don't think Lou really stood a great chance of getting him, even though I feel they offered the Ottawa Senators a pretty decent package. Now, could they take that same sort of package and offer it around other teams trying to land a top scorer? That's certainly a possibility. They could also dip and see what's left in the free agency here, which is what this article suggests, that they take a long, hard look at Vladimir Tarasenko. Now, we don't know for sure which teams are on Tarasenko's radar here. Certainly it was rumored to be down to a couple, mainly Carolina and Ottawa, when everything kind of happened with him, and all of a sudden he changed agency. So I don't know exactly what led to that. Obviously something wasn't going well and he was unhappy, clearly, but exactly the full fine details we don't know. But whether or not they can sign Tarasenko or not, it's hard to say. To sign anybody or bring anybody in, there is going to have to be money that goes out. After signing Oliver Wahlstrom, that does put them in a situation where they're basically slightly over the cap. Now, they can move some players around the roster and become cap compliant without technically moving anybody out. For example, a player could go on waivers easy enough and be demoted. That wouldn't be too difficult to do, and it would be cap compliant for opening night if no other moves are made. But we know that that's not really what Islanders fans are hoping for. They're hoping to see a trade or something happen to bring in another top scorer. Now, we know that the package before of Wahlstrom and Pajot was on the table along with a first-round pick. I don't know that trading Pajot really makes sense unless you're getting a higher-end scorer. Now, yesterday we talked about a rumor that was going around about a Pajot for Jake DeBrusk in Boston. Again, like I said before, I don't think trading Pajot is completely off the table. And DeBrusk is a good young player. He's a good scorer, had a good breakout year last year. I just think if they're going to move their centerman and Pajot, who is very important to them, they're going to need to get a higher-end player. And they're going to have to be more than just Pajot. That's why in the DeBrincat situation, it was Wahlstrom and a first also in that package. Otherwise, you don't really stand a great chance to make it happen. But at the end of the day here, Tarasenko would be a freebie on the open market. They may have to move somebody out to free up the space, but that would be well worth it if they can make an upgrade and get some more goals in their lineup. That absolutely makes sense to me, especially if they can get Tarasenko on a short-term deal. Right now, the rumor has it he's going to sign 1 year, but clearly, like I said, they got some stiff competition as well. But obviously, that's something that's being suggested here by the New York Post article, and I don't disagree with it myself. When you look at their projected top six, the player to me that needs to be upgraded is Kyle Palmieri. Now, I don't see it happening, though, mainly because he does have some trade protection in his contract, and Lou just tends to be very much the loyal guy who doesn't trade his guys. He's got a lot of guys that he's been with for an extended time. Some date back to New Jersey, including Palmieri, and I just don't know that he's ever going to make those moves. I mean, we don't know the future of Zach Parise as of yet right now, if he's playing or not. I think they're going on the indication that probably not for the time being, But at the end of the day here, to me, that's the player that needs to probably be moved or try to find a way to upgrade on. I just don't know that they're going to be able to move him out of their lineup to do that. And moving Pajot really depletes their center depth. And obviously last year, that third line with Pajot and Parise played a big role for them. And to break that down, would be difficult to do. Like if right now the Islanders have a pretty good bottom six, they are a really good overall defensive team. They need to find a way to score more goals, and trading away one of your centers who's one of your better defensive players at the same time, you're making one thing better, making another thing worse. So is it really an upgrade? Getting it done through free agency would be better. Then you have some more options on who you might want to move around to try to make it free up the necessary space. But we'll see. I don't know if the Islanders are really on the front burner for Tarasenko or not. They haven't been mentioned. I do think he'd be a great fit there. I just don't know that that's something that we're going to see, though, to be completely honest. In a Pajot trade, you're going to have to package him with some more stuff to get somebody better. And who that player is right now is just difficult. The Islanders are in an awkward spot. They need to make a trade like that. I just don't know who that player is out there that makes sense that they could logically actually attain. When it comes to Pittsburgh, they seem to be pretty confident that they're the preferred landing spot for Karlsson. We know Erik Karlsson has a no-move clause, so he'll dictate where he goes ultimately. There was some reports saying that Karlsson did not want to go to Carolina, but it's believed they still have some interest. Like I said, right now that seems to be in a bit of a holding pattern. The Sharks are kind of holding their ground on what they feel is a fair package, and Pittsburgh seems to be trying to wait them out. Ultimately, I think many involved on the Shark side want to get a deal done, and they want to do it before the season starts. So obviously, the Penguins, I think, are just trying to wait and see. Hopefully the price comes down a little bit and they can get a little bit more favorable of a deal. We don't know exactly what's on the table, but I think the biggest issue is having potentially a third team to retain extra money to knock his salary down further or take a player off the Penguins roster that's somebody who they want to move on from. Obviously, the Penguins are also going to make some strides here soon enough when they have the ARB case or signing for Drew O'Connor. Once that's completed and they have another buyout window, then they'll be able to make some additional moves here. There's speculation they could buy out a player like Granlund, and if they do that, that's step one in the right direction of being able to free up some room to make this bigger deal. So we'll see, but the Pens seem confident that they are the preferred landing spot there and are trying to wait out the Carolina Hurricanes. And other things that the Hurricanes are working on as well is there was speculation on a Tony DeAngelo trade that never materialized. He's now been bought out by the Flyers. He's been a free agent for a little while and hasn't been signed. So it seems a little less likely now that they're going to re-sign him and bring him back. So hard to say about the DeAngelo Carolina link. It seems less likely that's going to happen. Again, another team, as I mentioned, in on Tarasenko. That seems to have kind of cooled a little bit, but I don't think they're completely out of the mix there. And of course, Brett Pesce is a player who you never know, maybe they come to terms, but it's widely speculated that they're probably going to end up having to move him and try to obtain maybe another forward who can help score up front as well. They're still also working on a big contract extension for Sebastian Aho, which is rumored to be going well, but we don't know exactly where things stand on that front. No big rush, but certainly don't want to take too long. I think they'd like to get a lot of this business done before the season starts, if they can all help it. And in Calgary, we get confirmation yet again that another veteran who we already kind of knew was kind of mulling things over, longtime centerman Michael Backlund, has now confirmed with the Flames that he's not going to be re-signing. He's like Noah Hannafin, Tyler Toffoli, and all these other guys that have 1 year left have made it clear that he's not interested in adding an extension on the file right now and would like to kind of play things out or be moved. So ultimately, we've seen Toffoli get moved quickly. Hannafin's been involved, or his name's been out there in the rumor mill about a trade for some time. Backlund's obviously now going to be picked up when it comes to those trade talks too. There's other players as well, which we don't really know where they stand, like Tanev and Zadorov, etc. And then, of course, there's Elias Lindholm's the big one in Calgary too. The Flames have packed up the Brinks truck and offered him a mega extension that he's yet to accept. So you have to think, with Toffoli said he wanted out, Hannafin says he wants out, with Backlund not going back, you got to think Lindholm's probably not either. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's not, a confirmed piece of information that I can say for sure on, but you got to think so, right? I mean, they've been rumored to be offering him 8-year contract extension around $9 million. And really, for what he's valued at, and everything. I just don't know if that's, that to me does not sound good at all. Backlund at this point has not been linked to any specific team, but we know the Flames kind of took things slow. They got a quick offer on Tyler Toffoli and jumped on that to get it done. Otherwise, now we have, Hanifin and, of course, Backlund and possibly Lindholm all out there in the rumor mill. And, Conroy made it clear before he didn't want to go into the season with a bunch of pending UFAs. It's not good for the team in a sense that, if you're doing well, do you really want to subtract a bunch if you're going to have a shot at playoffs? You really don't, because you're going to end up, depleting your team. And secondly, you don't want that to be a distraction. You want your team to build chemistry and know that as things go, if you're having a good season, that the team's going to be together. And if you know for sure these guys are not coming back and not re-signing, it just makes it that much more complicated. So there's still plenty of time for trades. Clearly, things have slowed down in free agency. Lots of teams have missed out. Personally, I think Backlund would make a great addition for any contending team, especially wanting to add a veteran. He doesn't make a ton of money, but he can be a really solid two-way veteran centerman. Real good defensively, can chip in offensively. Like, he could be a really good pickup and be one of the bigger, difference makers that could be available for trade out there. When it comes to Hanifin, and the main teams linked him right now is Buffalo and Florida. We know the Sabres are still looking for a top 4 defenseman. Florida's looking for more defense, especially having Ekblad and Montour out for a few months to start the season. And he could be a fit there. I don't know exactly what the Panthers would move. I know there was some speculation they might move a guy like Reinhart. I mean, they've already traded Duclair. If they move Reinhart too, you're going to start to get a little thinner in the forward group. Might not be preferable, but that would be a great addition if Calgary could snag a player like him. When it comes to the Sabres, I don't know. I believe the rumor was that they were offering a player like a Peyton Krebs, which to me would be another great addition for a younger Flames team as well, because you start moving out some of these veterans, you don't necessarily have to rebuild, but you're certainly looking at being a lot younger team. And a player like Krebs, who's still kind of coming into his own and getting himself fully situated to what he's going to be in the NHL, could be a great addition. I mean, he was a former first-round pick of Vegas who went to the Sabres in the Eichel trade and has developed well and still has a ways to go before he hits his ceiling as well. So it'll be interesting if something like that materializes, but Hanifin to Buffalo or Florida right now makes the most sense. Now I'm sure there's going to be a lot more talk around Backlund now that we've been able to hear the news that he doesn't intend on going back. So Calgary's got their hands full, to say the least, demanding where these players go and what deals we see with all these guys here in the next few months if they are able to get them done. Maybe they go into the season with a little bit of unsigned players, but I wouldn't think they're going to want anybody too prominent to do that, especially after what they've already been through before with Tkachuk and Gaudreau. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.